Hello, everyone. Welcome to Folktales with Sassy. In the heart of the ancient Ngelecha kingdom stood Mbale Market, a sprawling maze of voices, colors, and ambition. Traders poured into its alleys like floodwater, their tongues sharp with persuasion, their eyes ever watching for the next buyer. Smoke from roasted yams and spice-filled soups drifted through the air, mingling with the scent of red dust and sweat. A place of business, yes, but also of dreams, secrets, and battles waged with words and wit. People said Mbale wasn't just a market, it was a spirit, alive and listening. If you entered it with fear, it swallowed you whole. If you entered it with pride, it laughed and showed you your weakness. Into this chaos came Naya, a young woman with eyes like lightning and a voice that could command attention without rising. She had tried everything, selling flower perfumes under the mango trees, hawking roasted grass cutters at evening festivals, even offering love charms to desperate maidens. But none of it lasted. Naya was a restless wind, always searching for where her greatness would take root. One evening, she stood at the top of a hill overlooking the vast stretch of Mbale Market, her wrapper tied firm around her waist, and declared into the wind, "This market will carry my name like thunder." The wind rustled in response, as if acknowledging a challenge had been thrown. Naya was no fool. She knew that in Mbale, survival belonged not to the bold but to the clever. The market swallowed fools whole and embarrassed the proud. So before launching her trade, she walked its length and breadth for 30 days. She observed how traders clapped their hands in rhythm to attract buyers, how they flattered strangers like long-lost siblings, and how they twisted prices with smiles that seemed genuine. She noticed how a bottle of cold ginger drink could soften the most stubborn customer, how laughter turned hesitation into transactions, and how silence could sometimes be more persuasive than speech. She bought small items, buttons, headscarves, rolls of thread, not for need but for study. She smiled, she listened, and she took mental notes. Nias Notebook became her companion, filled with scribbles like "position stall near busy path," "learn to shout with smile," and "offer drink before price talk." She even gave traders secret nicknames: Mama Ginger, the sweet talker; Papa Discount, who pretended to cry when people bargained; and Auntie Fanta, who always gave soft drinks before pulling out the big bales of cloth. Naya respected them all, but more than respect, she was determined to be greater. When her time came, she wouldn't just be a trader, she would be a name people whispered with envy and awe. With her savings tucked tightly into her waistband and a small loan from her cousin in the next village, Naya rented a shop. It wasn't much, a square room squeezed between a roasted corn cellar and the public toilet. When she saw the location, her heart dropped. "Even goats avoid this corner," she muttered. But the landlord winked and said, "People enter toilet with urgency. When they come out, their hands are lighter and their eyes open to buy. You'll see." Naya didn't argue. In Mbale, strange wisdom often turned out true. She scrubbed the walls with lemon water, hung up shimmering wrappers like festival flags, and spread out lace fabrics that caught the sun like glass. She placed a red plastic chair in the center of the shop, a throne for her customers. She called her stall Nias Threads, dressed like royalty. And on the first day, she wore her brightest blouse and tightest head wrap. Standing in front of her shop, heart pounding like a drum, she clapped her hands 3 times and shouted to the market, "It is time," and Mbale listened. Naya's voice rang like a bell through the morning bustle. "Auntie, come and see lace," she shouted, her arms stretched wide, her smile warm like morning tea. She had practiced her pitch the night before in front of her cracked mirror, fine-tuning her voice to carry but not strain, to charm but not beg. Soon, curious heads turned, Some smiled, others waved her off. One or two women strolled close, glancing at the shiny fabrics. Naya's heart beat faster. Her hands trembled, but she held her ground. A woman with a baby on her back stepped in. Naya welcomed her like a long-lost sister, offering her the red plastic chair and cold water. She unrolled a bright purple lace and threw it lightly on the woman's shoulder. "Ah, madam, you look like the queen of Ikoro festival," she said, giggling. The woman smiled shyly, adjusted the fabric, and looked at herself in the mirror. But after a few minutes of touching and checking, she stood up and said, "Let me just look around. I'll come back." Naya smiled politely, but inside, her spirit sank. That day passed like a slow drumbeat. Naya welcomed over 10 people. Only one bought a headscarf. Others touched, admired, and left with the same excuse: "I'll come back." She watched with envy as Mama Tolu, the veteran trader next door, sold bales upon bales of fabric. Her shop buzzed like a festival. Customers laughed, paid, and hugged her like an old friend. Naya bit her lip. What was Mama Tolu doing that she wasn't? So, she pretended to be a buyer and entered Mama Tolu's shop the next morning. What she saw amazed her. Before any transaction, Mama Tolu offered her customers cold hibiscus drink and sweet words. Her voice was like syrup, and her eyes sparkled with sincerity. "This cloth will open doors for you, my sister," she would say. Naya nodded to herself. She returned to her stall with a notebook and wrote, "Step 1, cold drink is key. Step 2, make them feel like royalty. Step 3, sweet mouth can unlock purses." But even as she made plans, she knew she needed more than tricks. She needed something extraordinary, something unforgettable. That night, unable to sleep, Naya sat under the moonlight with her notebook open on her lap. The tips she had gathered were solid, but her heart told her she needed more, something different, something that would tilt the odds in her favor. She remembered tales of ancient traders who used charms, herbs, and sacred powders to attract buyers. Her grandmother had once whispered about an herbalist in the forest of Okuku, a place feared and respected by many. The next morning, just as the roosters crowed, Naya packed some food and money, wrapped herself in a plain wrapper, and made her way toward the forest path. She walked past farms, crossed narrow streams, and arrived at the thick edge of Okuku forest. She called out respectfully, "Great father of roots, I seek your wisdom." The air turned still. A gentle rustle announced the appearance of a hunched figure with a beard that swept the ground. "Why do you disturb my peace, child of trade?" the old man asked. Naya bowed deeply. "I want to be more than a seller. I want to be a name. Teach me how to draw the river of customers to my door." The man studied her for a long while, then smiled faintly. "You may be the one, but what you seek will cost you." The old man led Naya to a small hut hidden beneath a baobab tree, its roof draped in moss and its door made of weaved raffia. Inside, it smelled of dried herbs, smoke, and time itself. He sat on a carved stool and gestured for her to kneel. From a gourd, he poured out a small mound of strange purple powder onto a piece of dried banana leaf. It shimmered faintly under the flickering oil lamp. "This," he said, "is powder from the roots of persuasion and petals of forgotten voices. Place it beneath your seat. All who sit near it will lose resistance. But heed this, never throw it away. If exposed to open air or discarded, it will take more than it gave." Naya's heart raced with curiosity and fear. "What happens if someone touches it?" she asked. The herbalist's eyes glinted. "Only the one it is meant for may use it. Anyone else who tampers with it breaks the bond, and the bond does not break quietly." He wrapped the powder in the banana leaf and tied it with a red thread. Use it wisely. It gives advantage, not destiny. She bowed 3 times and thanked him. She returned to Imbali Market with the bundle hidden in the folds of her wrapper. Her steps were lighter, her eyes brighter. She had something now, something none of the others did. She placed the powder under the red plastic chair and whispered a small prayer of gratitude. That night, she sat by her window and dreamt of riches, lace, and laughter. The next morning, Mbale Market awoke to the usual chaos. Shouting traders, wandering buyers, and the loud gossip of early birds. But in one corner, a small miracle began to unfold. Naya's first customer of the day, a plump woman with tired eyes, sat on the red chair without hesitation. Naya threw a soft green lace over her shoulders and began her sweet-tongued praise. Madam, this lace was woven for queens. You wear it like moonlight wears the night. The woman smiled bashfully. Within minutes, she nodded. How much? Naya named a price higher than usual. The woman didn't argue. She paid. And she wasn't the only one. That day, 5 customers came. 4 bought without complaint. The 5th promised to return and did, with her sister. Naya stood behind her counter, stunned, barely keeping up with the wrapping and smiling. The red chair had become a throne, and she was its keeper. By the end of the week, word had spread. Traders from other lanes came by pretending to browse, but their eyes kept darting to the red plastic chair. Mama Tolu raised an eyebrow. This your lace, Najaz? She joked, half serious. Naya only smiled and replied, Good luck calls good spirit. But deep down, she knew the powder was working. She made sure no one touched the banana leaf hidden beneath the chair, and every night she whispered thanks to the spirits of the market. She used her profits to repaint the shop, adding golden cloth tassels that danced in the breeze. She even bought a small battery fan and placed it beside the red chair. Her customers now came not just for lace, but for comfort and attention. And with each sale, her confidence grew. But so did the jealousy around her. The market, like a river, never stopped watching. As Naya's shop bloomed like a sunflower in dry season, she knew it was time to expand her reach. One morning, as she swept the front of her shop, she noticed a slim boy with bronze-colored dreadlocks darting from one end of the market to the other. He was calling customers into shops, making jokes, dancing, and getting paid in small change. His name was Meko, but the market called him Town Crier. She called him over. I want to employ you, she said. Meko grinned. I fit. Drag even lion enter your shop, auntie. Just say the word. They struck a deal. Meko would get a small commission for every customer he pulled into Naya's shop. That same day, Meko went to work. See better Laso, come collect your husband's destiny back. Only queens allowed, he shouted. People laughed. Some rolled their eyes, but more than a few followed him into the shop. Naya greeted each one with the warmth of sunrise, and the red chair did the rest. Meko was good, too good. By evening, Naya had doubled her sales, and Meko left the shop holding his commission with pride and the swagger of a man who had just signed a contract with the king. Day after day, customers arrived like bees to nectar. Naya began to recognize returning faces, women from distant towns, men buying for their wives, and tailors looking for quality materials. All of them sat, all of them smiled, and most left with their wallets lighter. Naya's neighbors started talking. Some said she had a secret charm. Others claimed she must be the daughter of a river goddess. But no one could prove anything. Behind her charm and confidence, Naya remained guarded. Every night, she dusted around the red chair but never touched the banana leaf. She remembered the herbalist's warning as if it had been carved into her bones. She kept the powder hidden and sacred. But success has a way of inviting curiosity and envy. And in the market, envy is a slow fire that spreads in silence. As Naya's fame grew, she received daily requests from girls hoping to become her apprentice. She refused them all. Business is not ready for extra hands, she would say. In truth, she feared letting anyone close to her secret. But then came Tari, a short, round-faced girl with eager eyes and a voice that sounded like laughter in a jar. Tari arrived with her aunt, who knelt and begged on her behalf. Let her learn under you. She is obedient and strong. Naya studied the girl. Something in Tari's determination stirred a memory of herself years ago, standing on the edge of Mbale with nothing but hope. 1 month probation, Naya said finally. No touching what I don't tell you. No talking too much. Tari bowed. Yes, Auntie. Thank you, Auntie. Tari absorbed knowledge like a sponge soaks water. She watched how Naya greeted customers, how she complimented without flattery, and how she always offered a drink before discussing price. Within a week, she had learned how to drape lace over a shoulder like royalty. Naya, impressed, began allowing her to manage the shop for short periods. Tari never questioned the red chair, but she noticed things. Customers who sat on it always bought something. Some entered the shop looking unsure, but after a few minutes, their faces softened. They laughed, touched fabrics, and bought. Tari was curious, but obedient. She did not touch what she was told not to, not yet. With her name now a melody sung through Imbali Market, Naya was invited to join the prestigious Textile Traders Association. It was the highest honor a market woman could receive. At the first meeting, she wore her brightest orange lace, her head tie coiled like a crown. She was welcomed with applause. We've seen your strength, Naya, the chairwoman said. We need voices like yours. The association was preparing for elections. Naya wanted the position of secretary, not for power, but for connections. It meant influence, visibility, and access to premium clients. But there was one rule. Only traders with apprentices could contest. With Tari under her wing, she finally met the criteria. Her rise, it seemed, had only just begun. One morning, Naya left early for an association meeting. She told Tari, don't touch the top shelf. Just sweep, sell, and make sure they sit before showing anything. Tari nodded, confident. But as the shop grew quiet, she noticed a musty smell. Wanting to impress Naya, she decided to deep clean. She wiped every corner, swept beneath tables, and even climbed a stool to clean the top shelf. There, hidden in a plastic basket, she found a strange bundle wrapped in dry banana leaf. It smelled odd, like herbs and forgotten rain. Thinking it was rotten, she unwrapped it and saw a purple powder. She wrinkled her nose, muttered, "Nonsense," and tossed the powder into the trash. Then she proudly mopped the floor, humming to herself. The shop smelled of lemon. The red chair gleamed. But something vital, something invisible had vanished. That day, Tari opened the shop with pride and determination. She welcomed customers with her usual charm, offered drinks, and ushered them to the red chair. But something felt off. The first woman who sat down frowned after inspecting a lace bundle. "It's too shiny," she said, placing it back. Another lady wrinkled her nose, murmured, "I'll check other shops," and left. Tari blinked, confused. This had never happened before. By midday, only one wrapper had sold, and even that came after exhausting negotiations. Tari paced the shop, wondering what had changed. She double-checked the arrangement of the fabrics, fluffed the pillows on the red chair, and even tried mimicking Naya's exact greeting style. But the magic, whatever it was, had disappeared. She didn't realize it, but the red chair was just a chair now. The power had gone out with the powder. Naya returned later that afternoon with a bright smile, humming a tune and holding a puff-puff bag in one hand. "How's our empire today?" she asked. Tari's face fell. "Not one real sale, Auntie. I don't understand. I did everything." Naya looked around, puzzled. She asked about the cleaning. Tari proudly listed her tasks, ending with, "I even cleaned the top shelf. There was this weird smelling leaf thin, so I threw it away." Naya's puff-puff dropped to the ground. Her heart thudded so loudly that the air around her seemed to hush. "You threw it away?" she asked, voice trembling. "The banana leaf?" Tari nodded, still oblivious. "Yes." It looked old and smelled strange. Naya sat on the floor, face pale. Her hands trembled. She whispered, "You finished me, Tari. That was the soul of my shop." That evening, Naya didn't close the shop with her usual flair. She simply sat on the red chair staring at nothing, while the shadows crept across the store. Tari tried to comfort her, but Naya waved her off, too broken to speak. Her thoughts ran back to the warning the herbalist gave her. If the powder is discarded, not even the earth will help you recover. And now, with the banana leaf gone, she feared that her reign in Imbali Market had ended. Word spread quickly. Traders noticed her dull mood, her unpainted nails, the silence that now filled her once busy stall. "Something has happened to Naya," Mama Tolu said under her breath. "The charm has expired." Even customers began to sense the shift. Some peered in and walked away. Others, who sat on the red chair, no longer felt special. The spell had lifted, and Mbale Market had begun to reclaim its queen. The next morning, Naya rose before the cocks crowed. She rushed to the forest of Okuku, pushing past bushes and vines until she reached the old hut. But the place was empty. The herbalist was gone. Only ashes remained where his fire once burned. She asked nearby farmers, but none had seen him in weeks. Panic gripped her like a snake. With tears rolling down her cheeks, she whispered into the trees, "Please, I need it back." But no answer came. She returned to her shop and tried everything. She repainted the walls, rearranged the fabrics, even bought more drinks. But nothing worked. The customers no longer responded to her flattery. The lace sat untouched. She sold only one item in 3 days. Her heart sank deeper. The market that once lifted her was now letting her fall. A week passed, and Naya's stall looked like a ghost of its former self. Even Meko, the hustler boy, had stopped calling customers for her. He now worked for Mama Tolu, who treated him to lunch and paid better. The red chair remained, still shining but vacant. Customers walked past without a second glance. It was as though they sensed its power had died. Tari, too, had grown quiet. She apologized every day, but Naya no longer blamed her out loud. She simply said, "It wasn't your fault, it was mine. I depended too much on magic, not enough on skill." Yet even as she said it, a small part of her still wished for the powder's return. She dreamed of it at night, saw it crumbling in the wind, felt it slipping through her fingers. And every morning she woke up emptier. The gossip spread faster than fire in Harmattan. Traders whispered behind their stalls, shaking their heads as they passed Naya's quiet shop. Some swore they had always known she was using something unnatural. "Ah, I knew it," one woman said, braiding her daughter's hair. "No one sells like that without help." Another added, "She should have stayed humble. Now the market has humbled her." Even customers began telling stories of their past visits to her shop. how they felt like they weren't in control, how their hands reached into their purses before their minds agreed. Naya felt every word like a slap, each whisper carved into her pride. She tried to ignore it, to rise above it, but the sting was deep. She had built her name with work, charm, and, yes, help from the powder. But now that help was gone, and with it, the illusion of invincibility. Mbale Market didn't just forget its queens, it replaced them. One slow morning, Naya sat on the red chair herself for the first time. She used to avoid it, letting it serve as a pedestal only for her customers. But now, with no one coming, it seemed empty of its former glory. The chair was cold, not physically, but spiritually. She felt nothing. She closed her eyes and whispered to the chair, "Do you remember me?" The silence answered. Tari sat nearby, folding wrappers and watching with pity. "Maybe we can try new things," she offered. "Maybe it's not too late to start again." Naya nodded, but she wasn't sure. Starting again would mean climbing a mountain she had once stood atop, and now she didn't even have boots. 3 days later, disaster struck. Naya arrived at the market early, hoping for a quiet day of reflection, only to find her shop door wide open. Fabrics were scattered across the floor, empty hangers dangled from the walls, and the safe was pried open. Everything, every lace, every wrapper, every single thread was gone. She collapsed to her knees. Traders gathered around, clucking their tongues in sympathy, but not surprise. "This is what happens when your luck finishes," someone said quietly. The association leaders were called. They examined the scene but found no sign of forced entry. "Maybe you left it open?" they asked. Naya shook her head, lips trembling. Deep down, she knew this wasn't just a robbery. It was a message from the gods of the market. Her time was truly over. That afternoon, the Textile Traders Association held an emergency meeting. Naya was asked to step outside while they deliberated. When they called her back in, the chairwoman's tone was gentle but firm. "We've decided to suspend your membership, Naya, just until things stabilize. The rumors, the theft, it's too much attention." Naya left the hall in silence. As she walked past the stalls, traders turned their backs or lowered their voices. Even Miko, her once loyal street hustler, avoided her gaze as he danced in front of Mama Tolu's shop. The market had swallowed Naya whole, chewed her with no mercy, and was preparing to spit her out. Weeks passed. Naya sold her few remaining belongings and left the shop keys with the landlord. Her cousin, who once loaned her the money to start, could no longer help. With nothing left, Naya walked into the office of the local sanitation team. "I need a job," she said. The officer handed her a green reflective vest, a broom, and a waste bag. "Welcome to Aspa," he said. Now every morning, Naya swept the market path she once ruled. She greeted the same traders who once bowed to her, now with downcast eyes and forced smiles. Some mocked her, others pitied her, but Naya swept with her head high, even as her heart wept. She had tasted glory, she had felt its sweetness, and now she tasted its absence. It wasn't long before Naya's new job became the hottest conversation in Mbale Market. Traders whispered behind umbrellas, under fabric canopies, and beside firewood stacks. "Is that not the same Naya sweeping gutters?" they asked, pretending not to stare. She ignored them all, focusing on the task at hand. Every sweep of her broom was a battle against shame, every bag of trash a step toward dignity. Some younger traders mocked her openly. "Ah, Madame Laissez don't turn Madame Gutter," one jeered. But others watched in silence, feeling the weight of her fall. Even Mama Tolu, who now enjoyed the spotlight, kept glancing in Naya's direction with something that looked like regret. all fear. Mbale had always been ruthless, but few expected its brightest star to dim so completely, and fewer still believed she would survive it. One quiet Thursday morning, as Naya swept past the stalls near the old spice lane, Tari appeared. She looked different, her eyes sunken, her face pale. "Auntie," she called softly. Naya turned, but didn't stop sweeping. Tari walked beside her for a while, silent. Then she spoke. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was just trying to help." Naya paused and looked at her. For a moment, she saw her younger self in the girl. Ambitious, eager, and naive. "You didn't destroy me, Tari," she said quietly. "I destroyed myself. I relied on shortcuts. I forgot the real work." Tari nodded slowly. "If you ever start again, I'll help, with real hands, no powder." Naya smiled faintly. It was the first time her lips had curved upward in weeks. The next day, a woman dressed in white from head to toe walked into the market. She carried no basket, bought nothing, but moved with an air that parted crowds. Some said she was a prophetess. Others whispered she was a spirit. She stopped in front of Naya, who was crouched beside a gutter, scrubbing the pavement. "You lost something that was never yours to keep," the woman said. "But what you gain next will be built from truth, not trickery." Naya stood slowly, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, the woman turned and disappeared into the market crowd. When Naya blinked, she was gone. That night, Naya dreamed of a new stall. No red chair, no hidden powders, just her hands, her voice, and fabrics that shone only under real light. Inspired by the dream, Naya woke up early and used her savings from sanitation work to buy a few basic cloth bundles. Plain cotton, faded Ankara, nothing special. She laid them on a mat beside the market's outer gate. No store, no signage, just a voice that called, "Good morning, sister. See something simple but sweet." To her surprise, a woman stopped. She touched the cloth, smiled, and bought one. Then another came, and another. By midday, Naya had sold more than she expected. She laughed for the first time in a long while, not because of magic, but because of hard work and humility. She folded her mat with pride. Her second rise had begun. In the weeks that followed, Naya continued her small trade on the mat. She reinvested every coin. Slowly, the mat became a wooden table, then a canopy, then a bench. She still swept gutters in the morning. But by afternoon, she was a seller again, a humble one, a true one. Traders began to respect her, not out of fear or envy, but admiration. "That's a strong woman," they said. Meko came by one day and offered to help for free. Even Mama Tolu sent her a greeting. Tari returned too, not as an apprentice, but as a partner. This time there was no red chair, no powder, just Naya, and the truth of her resilience. The gods of Mbale watched, and for the first time, they smiled.